Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another special episode of Forge and Thoughts, our new podcast here at Forge Entertainment. Today we have a special episode kind of introducing and going over what it's like to experience an anime convention. I'm here with my boy Zach.
Sup?
Say hi to the folks. He did peace. And we're here to bring you just a little bit of an insight on how our first convention is going here at Anime Milwaukee in Madison or in Wisconsin.
Yeah, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I feel like you just wanted to say Madison.
Being from Madison, it's weird being in like another.
You know, honestly,
city.
I'm sad that Madison doesn't have a convention anymore.
You know, they don't.
That's the rough part. It's like, because the only other conventions that I know of in Wisconsin are going to be KitsuneCon and Colossal North.
Yep. And Kitsune,
those
if I'm not mistaken, is Green Bay.
Yeah, that's Green Bay.
And then North is in the Dells, which I mean, is amazing.
It's amazing. I wish it was in the summer. But you know, I have a feeling
it builds character when they have the water park convention in the winter.
Yeah, but it's also more of a bitch to get time off.
The hell was that? Did you hear that?
I think it's the downstairs people. I think it's the downstairs, you know, anime conventions. People be partying hard. People be day drinking, man.
Yeah.
The day drinkers.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. I guess one of the, ways you can kind of break the illusion, because what do you think of, you know, when someone says anime convention? Because for me, before I was, I guess, quote unquote, enlightened, was, it's just a bunch of like sweaty nerds going playing video games and buying merch and all these like body pillows and everything, which part of that is true. But another part is you actually get to interact with a community of people that really share your like very nerd focused interests, especially in otaku culture. And I've met plenty of great people, Zach, and other folks from the Chicago crew up in the Midwest. And I never want to go back. I almost feel bad that I once thought conventions were just this stupid thing that people would go to, but it's a really good way to get out and meet new people.
You're welcome.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. There's a bit of that. That was what, Ace in 2015?
Ace in 2015.
That was the first big one.
That was the year I graduated, and I like literally, because remember, it was a week after my graduation. Yeah, because I got out because I'm a year older than you, so.
Yep. And I left.
You left.
I was done with that school.
That was a whole other story that we'll probably get into another time.
You know the best part is? That college still thinks I was class of 2016. Even though I left. Like, I never graduated.
There's so many
But they think I graduated.
Welcome to the American education system where everything's fucked.
I still got that mug. I'm like, guys, I never graduated here.
I still got that stupid piece of paper.
Does it look nice on your wall, that piece of paper?
I don't even have it framed because I don't want it. Because here's the thing.
There's better stuff.
There's better stuff, but also I don't display my degrees, oddly enough. I am ashamed of them. But that's for another discussion. That's for another video entirely.
So, conventions.
Conventions, yeah. So, I remember the first one I got you to, it was literally the week after my graduation, because this was probably May 7th, or May 7th to the 13th was like senior week. You were staying to
I was staying to work my work study job, at the IT desk.
And then I think literally that week you just went home to Madison. You probably like unloaded your shit.
Yep.
And then you had like a duffel bag, and then you came down to Chicago like Friday night, or was it Thursday night? But it was early.
It wasn't early because I stayed at your place.
And then my parents' car got stolen.
That was messed up. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm already encroaching on this dude's family. They're being so nice and welcoming and cooking. And I'm like, let me help out with the cleanup at least. But then your mother's like, no, I got it. I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I got it. I'm like,
I still think the highlight of that is we were out playing Pokemon Go until like 3:30 in the morning.
That was a year later.
No.
That one was a year later because that was 2016.
Oh, right, okay.
That's another funny story.
That's the year the car got stolen. I'm getting my years mixed up because there's always something.
Either way, stuff happens whenever we get together with our extended group, and you just forge memories that you don't really ever forget.
I remember the first ASIN we took you to. The second you stepped in there, you're like a kid in a candy store, and I swear to God, you blew like a couple $100 in the first 5 minutes, and then we're like,
should we break this up? Fuck no!
You kind of get overwhelmed. Everyone has their first time. I had my first. So pro tip, cash.
Cash.
Always bring cash to these things. Because there are actually some like vendors who are still like getting their start and setting up their Square readers and having to go through like, processing credit card fees and everything. Sometimes they upcharge by a couple dollars if you pay with card. I, as a personal rule, always like to bring a couple hundred just in 20s. You never know when you need them, especially if you're going to get autographs by guests in the industry, because it's easier, saves you a little bit of money, and it's quick. It's kind of like one of the pro tips. So when you go to one of these conventions, go with a group, but if you're going solo, make sure you got money and make sure you got everything planned out.
Yep. And so now let's pivot back to Anime Milwaukee.
Yes.
So the weather this weekend is wicked. So we started off yesterday at what, 0? We started at literally 0.
I'd never seen, this was the very first time in my car that said that the battery was too cold, that it couldn't use it, and it had to solely rely on the gas engine because it was so cold.
Shit.
And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna heat this up a little bit more before I drive it, about 70 miles out to Milwaukee. It fixed itself, but that's how cold it was.
Yeah, you had a quicker drive than we did, because I think that equates to what, an hour? From Chicago, our drive was like an hour, 20 minutes. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of considered taking Amtrak, but Amtrak's terrible. So it's like, yes, the Amtrak station is across the street from the convention center. So it's an easy walk. But at the same time, like, much rather have the car here just in case. But for those of you who don't have a car, I would probably recommend looking into other forms of transport, especially if you have the train. Because I know a lot of people in some of the Discord groups I'm a part of were just like, it's so far. I'm like, it's across the street from the Amtrak station. Yeah, and if you're in Chicago,
couple blocks walk. And that was what,
that
like
is,
a 20-minute ride?
That's right before you go into the underground part of the Blue Line. So that is, that's honestly one of the quicker stops to get to, because that's right when the train stops start to take a little bit longer to travel.
Okay.
Because that's when you start getting into either you're in downtown, or you're about to go into like some of the main districts of downtown.
Sure. Okay. But the thing is that at these conventions, there's a million things to do, and here this dude, easiest time I've ever had on any public transportation. Just get a card, scan it, boom, get down there, go to the concert, come back, experience the nightlife.
And this is, I think, where we're gonna start getting into the first kind of just like finer points of the convention, because some of the bigger conventions have concerts that they will put on themselves. Like Anime Central has put on huge Japanese bands in the past, as well as like other like musical appearances, and those were so good, and it was just an enhancement of the regular convention experience. And I feel like some of the newer conventions, and even some of the smaller ones, could benefit from doing that, because if you're already going to be looking at getting guests, you might as well look if you can get multifaceted guests, because like if you're already going to be having these guys in here to be essentially free promotion, because people are going to come and see the convention to like meet these people, why not make it worth their while to the point where you guys both get money by having them put on a performance, you get extra revenue for the convention and for the guest, and on top of that, the fans get a really cool experience. Because I know here they had a concert. I'm not sure if it's by a local band or someone else. I didn't take a look at that. We got in a little too late.
Yep.
And I wasn't really looking at
But the point is, I remember when I was
programming.
waiting in line for autographs, they were doing sound check. That was fun.
We kind of need the conventions to up their game. because especially
The ones around here, yes.
because like when you've got something like a new convention like Anime New York, and ASIN used to be the third largest convention, and now Anime New York has succeeded them and become like top 3. And we've got some of these smaller conventions, which is fine. They're new, they're starting off. They have their little gimmicks. I'll be doing a longer take on some of these, like Anime Magic, later on. But honestly, I kind of want to see some innovation, and we're at a standstill for that because a lot of the conventions are kind of like. They're pulling the old, like, this is the tried and true method, why are we gonna try and change anything?
I would agree with that because I would say they're still trying to recover from the after effects of the pandemic.
I agree.
And I mean, there's still some policies in place at some of these conventions. Like some of these conventions, they will straight up say you still need to wear masks, despite being vaccinated and everything, and that's fine.
Which like Anime Milwaukee is doing that, and I think that's actually really good.
And I mean, it prevents, at least the things that I've noticed, is that when you're actually wearing that, it actually also prevents, the typical con plague that would, afflict, several folks.
That used to be so terrible.
Yeah, and now you don't hear much about that. But yeah, that's a thing. And with the masks and some of these like policies that are still in place post-pandemic, I think it helps because then you don't have to like take days off. If you're sick after the convention.
It really does. And, we're getting onto days off. So it's like a lot of times you are going to have to plan, if you want to come down on Friday for some of these conventions. Like Jacob and I came down. You came down earlier in the day because you can work remotely.
This is for
Anime Milwaukee. This is for today.
Oh, right. Yep.
Because I don't know about everyone else. I work for CPS, and it's like if I'm gonna burn one of my few PTO days on that, it's like I kind of want it to be a good convention, which is why I'm burning my PTO days on a travel convention, like one where we're actually getting on a plane, and it's gonna be like, I'm waking up at 5 a.m., I'm catching like a 6 a.m. or a 7 a.m. flight, and we're going across the country, where it's like we're gonna be getting there at like 1 or 2 their time, and then we're flying out Sunday. It's like I'm burning my PTO on probably that Friday, possibly the Monday. We're gonna see how I feel about that. But it's like for those of us with limited PTO days, it's like a lot of times you gotta make concessions. So it's like, Milwaukee's only an hour or something away from Chicago. I get out at 3:30. Jacob gets out at 4:30. It's like
booking through rush hour.
Chicago rush hour. Granted, we got lucky. We didn't take the worst expressway.
Don't even get any of us started on that. I would like to kind of double back a bit here.
Yeah.
Impressions of this con after being here for a day. What kind of impressions are we pulling? Like, you've been on the floor.
Yeah.
You've interacted with some of the folks. What's your take? Because this is our first con of the 2023 season.
So my initial impressions are it's looking really good. Attendance is looking real high. However, it's not like something like Anime Magic like 2 years ago where the venue was completely overrun because they underestimated how many ticket sales they were going to have. Mm-hmm. This seems perfect. It's like the perfect attendance where you can like still navigate through the crowds. Dealer's Hall isn't crazy, and actually, I'm very surprised actually. We don't have some of the typical con behaviors where we got people like taking selfies or photos in the middle of the of the walkway in Dealer's Hall or on the stairs or any of the typical like walkways and anything. So. And a part of me thinks that might be because of some of the photo policies, and staff is really good here.
The staff they've really cracked down. I mean, they were cracking down last year when we went too.
Yeah. And I'm actually a fan of that because like one of the things that the staff here, because I know some of the higher ups and staff here, very wonderful people. They are very conscious of people's health, and it's like because not only do they have some people who might be not on the healthiest of sides, but we've also got to think this is a family event. You know, if you're going to be bringing little kids here or something.
There have been a lot of kids that I've seen,
which I'm actually very happy with.
Like more, like in the past, like 4 conventions I've been to, this is the most, like, you know, amount of kids I've seen at a convention, which is great.
Yeah.
That means that we're getting new weebs. We're raising new nerds.
Generation.
Next.
And I'm very happy with that. You know, there are some people who are like, oh, the mask. I'm like, you know, you don't want to wear it, fine, but you take the consequences. If the con says you have these rules, same with everything. Like I'm a wedding photographer on top of, you know, being a CPS employee. And one of the things that I always put into my contracts is the venue says there's a rule in place, we follow it. I don't care what it is. You cannot, like, yes, I'm contracted to you, but if the venue says something, I have to abide by that. And no matter what you say, yes, you may be giving me the money, we have to follow their rules. And if their rules are we have to wear a mask, wear the damn mask. It is less of a headache. You're not gonna get hit with whatever it is they're gonna do later to like punish you and all that. And it honestly makes everyone's life a lot easier. It makes everything smoother. Just roll with it. What's the worst that can happen? But backtracking to the photo aspect, because I have a different badge, which I'm not wearing right now because I took it off earlier. But I have a press badge. One of the things that Anime Milwaukee is doing differently that I think only like one other con in the area does is press badges. So Colossal North is I think the other one.
Didn't they give you a press badge for Magic? Or was it just like a
They did, but I was actually
contracted
contracted by the con.
Oh.
I was actually contracted by the con for that one. So whereas here I'm not under contract with them, so I can do basically whatever I want. But the main thing is this gives me permission to actually do paid shoots, and I have mixed feelings about that because like most other conventions, like it's hard to regulate that. You can't regulate that. One of the things that I like and dislike is the fact that we do have those badges. I like it because it gives cosplayers, it gives guests, you know, here's a list of reputable photographers that we have vetted ourselves and that we have found, you know, to be good enough where you can trust them with your money and the experience. Because one of the things that happens at conventions that we actually had someone complain about on the actual Anime Milwaukee page. I almost said Anime Magic. The Anime Milwaukee page.
A lot of different
so many
names
anime M's. But Anime Milwaukee, someone posted in the chat, it's like, we got scammed last year and it was endorsed by the con. No, it wasn't. And I and some of the other staff members had to be like, just because it shows up on the Facebook page doesn't mean it's legit. You have to check the website. You have to do your due diligence.
You gotta do the official channels.
And they've had this up for a while. Granted, last year they had it up earlier. That's my one big complaint. Last year they had the photographer list out in December, or like first week of December, like right after Thanksgiving. This year they had it out, I think 3 weeks before the convention in January. And that was really difficult because if you're trying to promote yourself as one of the credentialed photographers and the list isn't out yet, it's really hard to be like, yeah, I'm official. Oh wait, they haven't released the official list yet. Okay.
Sometimes they have these like last minute announcements that makes it hard for planning. Because imagine like the vendors who are traveling, you know, across state or multiple states.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we don't know if, you know, we're going to have this particular policy in place or not. ASIN, was it last year, a year, or no, I think it was last year.
If we're going to talk about that.
They made a last minute policy change. We don't need to get into it, but a last minute policy change a week before the con.
And that blew up in their face.
Just completely sidelined. Was it like a third of their vendors at least were just like, I can't come now.
Yeah, no,
I can't come.
They lost, oh God, it's honestly, it's like Wizards of the Coast. They lost so much revenue. They lost so much good faith, that goodwill that they built up over years, gone in an instant. And so and that's the thing is, this is one of the things I was talking about earlier, where conventions need to change, but they need to change in a way that isn't solely monetarily based. Like, it's got to be like, okay, does this improve the experience? Yes. Does it also increase our revenue a little bit? Yeah. But also, it's like, is it very clearly like something that we can do as a way to line our pockets? No? Okay, that's fine.
Oh yeah, you should never have a convention, or you shouldn't be running a convention with the sole purpose to make as much money as possible. Because
there are conventions
there
that do
are,
that.
yes, and those ones they get a bad rap, and some weird drama stuff happens that, or as you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, the conventions disappear. You mentioned in Madison, they're all gone now. The one that we used to go to is gone now because someone was going in from the higher up saying that I want to make as much money as possible. Screw the experience. I want to get VIP passes going. I want to, buy all this, and they're going to have to pay this, even though we don't have enough population to justify charging these prices. And a year after that, the volunteers, because a lot of what people need to understand, a lot of these conventions, and again, Anime Milwaukee,
volunteer based.
It's volunteer based, so it really depends on your pool of volunteers,
and a lot of the conventions,
the quality of your
and a lot of the conventions
policy
are
upkeep and all that. Yep.
A lot of the good conventions are nonprofits.
All these conventions start as like these clubs or projects from school. And Milwaukee actually was something that was a brainchild of someone at the U of M. Yeah, and I was like, what? That's badass. So something to start out that small and then grow into this, thing where this year they were forecasting to have maybe 15,000 people, probably more. That's a lot of people.
It is.
For something that some folks in a college campus were like, hey, let's get a bunch of weebs together. Let's have some degenerate fun.
For sure. And I think one of the things that, and it's very easy for people on the convention scene to forget that the staff are people too. And
again, it's just the willingness of folks to volunteer really kind of determines the quality output of the convention and if people have a good time.
Yeah, so like, I mean, if we're looking at like the way Wizard World and C2E2 handle their volunteer basis, it's like they are all about making the experience for the guests, like both the paid guests and the regular attendees, as good as possible. And that is really hard to do, but also like it's easier for them because they're contracted by big companies to like pay the people.
Yes.
And it's like, unfortunately, we are at the point where the anime community doesn't have many sponsors that are willing to pay for these, because I honestly don't, because Anime Milwaukee doesn't have a Funimation, a Crunchyroll, or a Right Stuff booth.
They don't.
Which means they're not vendors or sponsors here. And those are some of the big hitters. And we don't have that here. Not
I never
every convention
considered
is like that.
But you're absolutely right, because at these bigger ones down in Chicago, they do have those industry, vendors. Like, it's so cool. Right Stuff, for the folks who don't know, that's an online only like anime merch, Blu-ray, plushies, figures, you name it. Based out in Iowa, I want to say.
That's where they have their warehouse.
But that's their main warehouse where they ship stuff out. And when you actually see a vendor like that in person with everything laid out in the hall, you're just like, man, I don't got to go online, order something, and then pay extra for shipping. It's right there and then. And sometimes, what I really like is that sometimes depending on how big the con is, you get free stuff. They're looking at promotional stuff. Dude, JoJo's.
Or they'll do, what Good Smile does is they'll do early releases there, and like very limited runs of those, which they never announce, and it's like you can only get those here. They'll do convention exclusives.
I still have a JoJo's Part 3 print framed. It's so good. It's Jotaro and Dio just staring each other down with their stands. It was a free print that they were just handing out at the Viz Media booth.
I remember that.
Because they were like, oh, buy our box set. We just released part 3. The first part of part 3, JoJo's following all the parts, and then the releases of the show is confusing. Like, they have 2 parts of part 5.
Yeah.
In part 6, now on Netflix, they have 3 parts of part 6. Explain that to a non-fan. Hey man, I'm in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure part 6, but part 1 of part 6, because that's how many episodes are out on Netflix.
I mean, I feel like we're gonna, at this point, we're gonna devolve into the very contrived points of anime releases, because like, let's look at Attack on Titan, the final
it's
3
something we can
season.
get into. One thing that I at least going back to the JoJo and the promotional stuff. You remember Chalk Guy?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's still doing those.
I know, and it's so cool whenever he does them, because basically this dude. I wish I knew his name off the top of my head.
I think it's literally the Chalk Guy.
Yeah, it's Chalk Guy. So he takes this spot in the vendor hall. Barricades it off, and it's just this huge blank canvas, and what he does is he literally uses a whole bunch of chalk, lines, some promotional art. We can put some up on the screen for you guys to see some examples, and throughout the weekend he's working on it. He's doing line work, and then by the very end it's colored in, propped up, and that same time when they were passing out those free prints for the JoJo's Part 3 release, he did a promotional piece for that, propped it up. And it was the coolest thing. You can only get that in a real life, in real life at an at-person event, and that's just another thing that I think is so cool about these, events. My impressions, at least.
Yes, I've left. So let's get to.
I want to get my impressions coming to Anime Milwaukee. So, cameraman, I'm gonna need you to go into that red bag, or actually right behind that red bag. Pull out the you know what it is, the little pink whatever, because I'm coming in with, I'm a little spoiled at this point. This is a convention that is very much a typical convention for all ages. I just recently got back from a convention down south that was an 18 plus, and I just went to it on a whim because I've never been to one.
Oh, right. Oh, I just realized you were not with us when one of the early conventions in the Midwest, which I don't remember if it's a convention that is actually, because there's some conventions in the Midwest that are run by some not good people.
To say the drama we mentioned earlier, where they're all in it for the money.
Drama is a different thing from this,
but there's drama involved.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on the anti-Facebook groups.
But anyway, there was this one convention that that I guess the venue had another wing of the convention center booked for for an X-rated event.
And I was ignorant at that time, but our boy in Missouri, he's
not in Missouri anymore. Or he's not in. He was in Michigan. No, he's in Vegas now.
I'm gonna need to catch up with him. Either way, our boy was playing both sides of the field that weekend.
You're thinking of a different boy. I'm thinking of someone else.
Yeah. My boy. You know who I'm talking about now. That man better still be in Missouri.
Yeah, he's in Missouri. I was thinking of someone else.
Either way, God, that was a crazy experience too. But coming back to my experience, so the con that I was at previous was 18 plus, and the clientele and the types of people that go to these things, it's no different. If anything, it's a little bit more free. And there's some, I got a squad down there now that I just randomly met up with because some jackass pulled the fire alarm. And this was the convention's second year. And you know what the best part was?
That's just a
They didn't even know that was a thing because the convention was still so new. They were like, was there an actual real fire? And I'm explaining to them, wait, this doesn't happen to you guys? ASIN, it's not a real ASIN if the fire alarm isn't pulled at least twice. The official company car, or the official car of ASIN is the Wambulance.
Yeah.
If you do not see a freaking ambulance picking someone up, it's not a real ASIN.
This is true.
I mean, it's just how it is. But no,
if we don't got the cops getting called multiple times, potentially the food vendors in the area being like, we're never going to deliver to you again. Is it really a convention?
So when I was on the floor earlier, we were just walking through. We were looking at a lot of the blade dealers. They have a lot of like weapon replica dealers and some legit like actual blades that they're selling on the floor. And we're just walking and we hear these two congoers that just see this 18 plus little like tiny hut where you have to flash your ID. And bruv just goes, hey, you want to go ahead and look at some hentai?
Hey kids, want to see a dead body?
And then he's like, I can't believe I just heard that. And I'm like, I'll be right back. I got my ID out, went inside, took a look. It's just a tiny little hut. And I'm just like, there's nothing in here really, except a couple of wall scrolls.
So bouncing off of you in a minute.
I had to check it out. Apparently there's a second one. I'm gonna have to do that before the weekend ends, but I feel that once you go to an 18 plus event, you are then obligated to at least rep for your folk in future conventions that have those special areas. And then really, you know, make an impression on the people you're with.
Well,
whether it be a good or bad impression, that's for
this year. What do we got coming?
Well, I want to see some more. I want to see some more voice actors, especially down in the southern areas, come back up to the Midwest because there's been a lack. Unless someone's like local or around here, folks from California or anything, or from Texas, because Funimation is solely based in Texas, we haven't gotten many of those folks recently.
That's that's probably because for them it's local and
it's easier for them to do that there.
But it's also a lot harder for them to get out of the state now.
But they used to be able to get out. And we used to see them a lot more often. So expectations or hopes, I would like to see a little bit more of that. I know some of the vendors down south from the 18 plus convention, there were vendors I'd never seen before because it's a completely different area.
Yeah.
And I've told, have you ever like considered like going up to the Midwest? I got people up there that would buy your entire stock. Like they would buy everything on this wall. Car vendors, there's a whole car culture down there that only Anime Magic at this point has really had some representation for that. I want to see more of that if possible. But it really depends on what the staff goes for and what they want to bring in to attract that sort of crowd of folks. I want to see like... I want to see like a little bit more like willingness to try new things because you do bring up a good point earlier where they're really still going by the book of like convention going where we have our panels, we have our autograph policies, and that needs to change for some of these. The current autograph policy for AMKey, the only way to get, say you want to meet one person, that's actually not too bad. And the policy is you can bring one free item to get signed. You get check marked on your badge. It's good. But they have the voice actors signed up to meet at the exact same time. So you're going into a room with all the voice actors at the same time. But their current policy
is you can't jump lines.
You can't jump lines. So what you need to do is you get the one person, then you need to go back outside and get back in another line for another person.
That is the dumbest thing.
It doesn't work, and I think, and I could be wrong, guys, but I think the reason why they have that in place is to accommodate the folks that can't show up early. And I get it, we all have a lot of stuff we're doing throughout the weekend, but if you really want to meet this person or these people, show up early. Like,
I also just don't understand.
It works.
I also just don't understand why we're not doing what C2E2 does, which is where you can go online and you can pre-order and book in advance and book time slots. Time slots. It's not hard.
Just show up to your time slot.
Just show up to your time slot and then have a regular signing, like kind of like how they do, but have them more spaced out where you have like one or two people going at a time, because C2E2 usually does it where it's like, they usually have lines going for certain things, but they're also scattered around enough where if you wanted to go to get like say say you wanted to get
Leah Clark's autograph.
Leah Clark or whoever, one of the My Hero voice actors. Say you wanted to go get Deku's voice actor. You could go get Deku, and then later that day they would have Bakugo.
Yep.
Because they're not going to put those guys right next to each other, have the lines run concurrently, and then have people miss.
Unless you're currently Anime Milwaukee, which is what they're doing with Ray Chase, Max Middleman, and Robbie Damon.
I feel like that though, because they're in their band.
Yeah, they're in their group.
Yeah.
They have, but they're not all at the same table. You still have to line up separately for each one at the same time, and that's my main criticism for that.
That's certainly
so
not the wisest.
what people, if they want to get all their signatures, because first off, you're not, because if you have to go back outside to get all those signatures, you now have to wait in line again. You're not going to get one of those 3. Maybe you'll be lucky if you get 2. So you kind of have to skirt the system a bit if you want to get what you get. So I would like to see, ideally, a system that I saw down south, and actually some of the Chicago cons have been doing this too, where it's all just paid. Like, it's paid, they have a booth, the voice actor or actress, they can go to the booth whenever they want throughout the convention as like a break, and you just go up and talk to them. Remember our experience with Josh Greeley?
Yeah, I love that.
Oh my God.
I honestly don't understand
that was the best.
I don't understand why they're not just like letting like in the normal convention hall, why they're not just having like, yes, you have the autograph sessions, but then you also have the paid autograph sessions like we discussed, but then also having it where give the actual voice actors a booth, have them scattered around the convention, and have it where yes, you can go up to the booth, you can buy a print, you can talk to them, and you can also pay them right then and there to get an autograph or a photo. Just do that. I don't understand why that's so difficult. And it also puts more money into the voice actors.
Well, they do this as a side hustle, as part of their main like voice acting.
No, this is actually how they make most of their money.
I met
they make more of their money doing the convention run than they do actually voice acting in anime.
Phil Parsons.
We gotta wrap this up. Seriously.
What?
Final thoughts. We gotta wrap it up. It's past our.
The crew is telling us we need to wrap up. I know.
Is the time flown already?
It has.
Like, I gotta put my foot down. We gotta wrap up.
Let's do. How about this? Our final thoughts is going to be. We'll do our one expectation of at least one convention that one thing we want to see from one convention. The one thing we want to see from one major convention, and then we'll do our final thoughts on Milwaukee right now. I
want to see what I experienced down south and a couple times in Chicago where they do have those booths back. Where you can just go up. It costs a little bit more, but if you save up the money, you're in and out, and then now you're not spending 2-3 hours of your time waiting in a line and missing out on panels or other things that are happening throughout the con, because there's tons of other things you could be doing. Or, God forbid, eating something. So I want to see a more like open interaction with the guests that they bring in. And if it costs extra, that's fine. It's paying for the convenience. And then you get all this cool shit.
I agree with that. I want to see the conventions take more risks in a way that will help the community, like I mentioned earlier, because like we're seeing places like Anime Magic. They were doing a 5K earlier. They're doing like an emphasis on the car show and all this, and that's really cool. I want to see more of that. I want to see more stuff that's like out there and there for some niche groups, but also gets people interested in some new hobbies and stuff.
We need North and South to just commingle for like 2 seconds, because that car culture is all down there currently, and it's not.
It's also here in Chicago, but it's a lot.
But that's.
Well,
I want them to commingle.
Well,
that's what I want.
Well, that's because our shit up here is illegal.
Venues. That's what I'd like to see.
Anyway, final thoughts on Milwaukee. And
I still got a few more prints to buy at the vendors hall, but it's your typical run-of-the-mill anime convention for all ages. After going to conventions for almost a decade now, I'm not going to be going in and spending tons of cash on your typical convention, which is kind of nice because then I'm saving money. So probably not going to be spending too much more, but taking in the atmosphere, seeing all the different cosplays, definitely going to be getting enjoyment out of that.
Nice.
So, yeah. And then hitting up the rave later.
Oh, nice.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. My impression right now, or my final impression is, It's looking very good. I have a few more shoots to do today, and then tomorrow I'm actually completely free. Didn't do any Sunday bookings.
So that means you're going to go to the Maid Cafe, right?
Probably not. I'm sorry.
Maybe we're going to force him to go
I'm
to
sorry.
the Maid
I
Cafe.
value my life. Do you want to deal with my wife?
Man's a married man, bro.
This is an all-ages convention.
Man's a man.
Now, if it was the
Now,
18 plus Maid Cafe,
okay,
then I would agree with you.
So what I'm hearing is you are going to be saying that exact line to my wife.
It's an all-ages convention. She can take that as it will.
I know.
You can pull the pin.
You can be the one. You can be the one in front of me when my wife is asking these questions.
I have this dumb grin on my face like, I caused this. Yes.
And I'm like, this man has a death wish.
So throughout the rest of the sessions here, we're going to be like going a bit more into like other conventions throughout the year. So this was a good starting. This was a good starting base.
This is good because I think our next big one is ASIN because I don't think any of us are doing C2E2.
Nah.
Just because while C2E2 is a fantastic convention and we do normally go, I think we're prioritizing some other conventions this year.
Yep.
And just where it falls this year is not like ideal for us, and making our way in downtown Chicago is a nightmare.
She got public transit.
We do, but also it's like
You gotta go back on it.
like if I'm lugging a bunch of equipment everywhere, I'd much rather like have my car, but at the same time I don't want to deal with downtown parking and paying $40 for an open lot.
I feel that. Well,
Yeah.
we'll leave it at that. We'll have some more updates later on, but I want to say thanks, guys, for tuning in.
Yep.
Especially those folks from Forge Entertainment. I see you. If you haven't liked or subscribed, and let us know in the comments whether or not you want us to go more into this sort of like culture. Let us know. And this has been Speed, my boy Zach.
Yep, and we will see you guys for our Anime Central thoughts.
We out.